vanished village of Lake Anjikuni. Canadian North is a place where silence has weight, where the wind carries stories older than memory, and where the land keeps secrets so deep even time can't thaw them. But in the winter of 1930, something happened along the frozen edge of Lake Anjikuni that defies every rule of nature, survival, and human behavior. A trapper arrived at a remote Inuit settlement, a place he knew, a place he trusted, and found every single person gone. Food left cooking, rifles abandoned, sled dogs starved, and not a single footprint in the snow. This is the true story of the Lake Anjikuni disappearance, one of the coldest mysteries in the Canadian history. Welcome to Rick's Storyverse. Tonight, we travel into Nunavut, a land of endless white where the horizon swallows sound, and where the line between the natural and supernatural has always been thin. To understand what happened at Lake Anjikuni, you have to understand the land, the people who lived there, and the strange history surrounding this remote corner of the north. Lake Anjikuni sits in one of the most isolated regions of northern Canada. No roads, no towns, no quick way in or out. In 1930, the only people who moved through this region were Inuit families, following seasonal migration patterns and trappers who knew the land well enough to survive it. One of those trappers was Joe LaBelle. He wasn't a stranger to the area. He'd visited the Anjikuni settlement before. He traded with the families who lived there. He knew their faces, their voices, and even their dogs. And on a freezing November night, he was counting on their hospitality. What he found instead was a village swallowed by silence. LaBelle approached the first igloo, expecting to hear the familiar sounds of life: children laughing, dogs barking, the crackle of a fire. Instead, he heard nothing. He called out. No answer. He stepped inside one of the homes, and that's when the unease turned to dread. Inside, he found a pot of stew sitting over the fire, still warm, still cooking, as if someone had just stepped out only moments earlier. But the igloo was empty. He checked another. Empty. Another. Empty. Every home abandoned. Historical reports estimate that 25 to 30 Inuit men, women, and children lived in this settlement. Not a massive village, but a stable, recurring, seasonal camp used year after year. These families were experienced, skilled, and deeply connected to the land. They didn't make mistakes, they didn't leave things behind, and they didn't vanish without reason. LaBelle noticed things that made no sense for Inuit survival. Rifles were left behind. In the Arctic, your rifle is your life. You don't leave it, not for an hour, not for a minute. Winter clothing was still hanging on the racks. Thick caribou skin parkas, essential for travel, untouched. The sled dogs were found dead. A pack of dogs tied to their posts, starved. This meant the villagers had been gone for days, not hours. No tracks, fresh snow covered the ground. There were no footprints, no sled marks, no signs of departure. Not even the dogs had been moved. It was as if the entire village had simply evaporated. Some skeptics argue the villagers simply migrated, but Inuit seasonal movement follows strict patterns tied to weather, food, and safety, and nothing about this disappearance matches those patterns. November is when families settle in, not move out. No Inuit group would abandon dogs. They were essential for survival. No one would leave rifles or winter clothing behind, and no migration leaves zero tracks. This wasn't a planned move. It wasn't a mistake. It was something else. Bell then walked to a small burial site near the village. What he saw there is one of the most debated parts of the story. Several graves appeared to have been opened, not dug up by animals. The snow was cleared neatly, the earth disturbed with precision. Some reports say the bodies were missing. Others say the graves were simply exposed. But either way, something had been there. Something had been searching. While LaBelle was making his report at the nearest telegraph station, other trappers in the region came forward with their own strange sightings. They claimed they had seen a blue light drifting across the sky over Lake Anjikuni around the same time the villagers vanished. Not a meteor, not an aurora. Something slow, something controlled, something silent. A glowing blue object moving against the wind. Closest known Inuit population lived around Anandai Lake, far to the south. This region was home to the Aharamut, also known as the Caribou Inuit. They were nomadic, but they returned to the same seasonal sites year after year, just like the families at Lake Anjikuni. The Aharamut would later become the victims of one of the most tragic events in Arctic history. They forced relocations of the 1940s and 50s, where many starved after being moved to unfamiliar land. This region already has history of hardship, mystery, and government involvement. And that makes what happened next even stranger. Early newspaper reports claimed the RCMP investigated and confirmed the village was empty. Later, the RCMP denied this, saying no such event occurred. So which is true? The earliest reports, the ones closest to the event, describe officers arriving, finding the same eerie scene LaBelle described, and launching a search that turned up nothing. No bodies, no belongings, no tracks, no explanation. Later details only deepen the mystery. Over the years, people have tried to explain what happened. Was it mass migration? But the abandoned rifles, clothing, and dogs make this impossible. Was it a blizzard evacuation? There were no tracks, and Inuit families know how to survive storms. Was it a hostile attack? No signs of struggle, no footprints, no bodies, no blood. Was it a government cover-up? Some believe the RCMP denial was an attempt to bury a case they couldn't explain. Or was it something not human? The blue light, the missing villagers, the open graves, the total lack of tracks. It's no wonder the case is whispered about in the same breath as UFO encounters and unexplained disappearances. To this day, no trace of the missing villagers has ever been found. No remains, no belongings, no answers. Just a silent village on the edge of a frozen lake, and a story that refuses to die. I will end this with a summary and a poem. Where the tundra lies quiet beneath endless white, a village slipped softly into the night. Where the wind holds the names that the cold can erase, and footsteps dissolve without leaving a trace. Where the graves lay uncovered by hands in gloom, and silence hangs heavy like frost on a tomb. Where a blue light drifts slowly through cold northern air, as if something watched from a height of despair. Where the truth hides in shadows no traveler can roam, some vanish forever and never come home. That's another story from the edge of night. Please like and subscribe to keep the torch alight. Good night.